Welcome to yet another Tuesday's Timely Torah Talks. Tonight we have with us yet another very special guest, all the way from Florida, Rabbi Yaakov Moskowitz. Welcome, Rabbi. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Rabbi Meir. It's amazing to be here. Doing great. So happy. Thank you.
It's all our pleasure, and it's great to have you down over here at the Chazaq headquarters. And tonight's topic is Elul is here. Now what? But before we delve into the topic, Rabbi, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background to our broad audience.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Rabbi Meir. And I'm really so honored, to be able to be here, to be able to be at the Chazaq headquarters, and to be able to have a chance to talk with everybody today. I really thank you guys so much, and for all you guys do for Klal Yisrael. It's amazing. Okay, a little bit about myself. So, I grew up in Syracuse, New York, upstate over here. I'm the youngest of three brothers. And, it was really amazing growing up. We grew up in a town that really didn't have such a religious community. We were religious all the years, but, my brothers and I, we went to a day school that, didn't have so many religious students up till 6th grade, and then 7th and 8th grade, we were in a non-Jewish prep school. And after that is really when we went off to yeshiva and kind of really started a more formal Jewish education. And, I went to the Yeshiva of Rochester for high school in upstate New York. And then after that, I made my way into Yeshiva Chavetz Chaim in Queens, right here in the neighborhood. It was really, driving in now, by the way, it was really just amazing coming back into Queens. I didn't, officially feel that I was back in Queens until I realized that it took me almost just as long to find a parking spot as it did to drive here from the Catskills. But, it's really amazing being here. And then, so getting back to after high school, I was in Yeshiva Chavetz Chaim here in Queens for a number of years, got married to my wonderful wife, who's also from the neighborhood here. And after I received smicha from the yeshiva, I began working in Stony Brook University as the campus rabbi over there on Long Island. I was working for Aish and for Olami and for Roots, for a few organizations there. Serving as the campus rabbi, trying to be makarev and bring back some of the students. And then after that, my wife and I made a decision to move down to Florida, down to North Miami Beach, where we are today, and we work with Yeshiva Torah's Chaim, Torah's MS, where I am one of the Rabbeim, as well as the Director of Adult Education, where I have the opportunity, the big zechus, that on behalf of the Yeshiva to try to really reach out to the local communities, and we prepare shiurim and give classes and lectures all around the various communities in South Florida. And Baruch Hashem, we're seeing an amazing growth, not just this year with all of the, all the people from up here from New York heading down to Florida, but just really in the past number of years, we've had, this past year we had around 1,100 students, and it's going up to almost 1,300 this coming year in the yeshiva. So it's really amazing growth, and we're able to do, thank God, really some awesome things down there.
Amazing, Rabbi. Unbelievable. Great. Yagd Torah V'yadu. You should continue spreading the Torah all over the world.
Amen.
And tonight's topic is Elul is here. Now what? So, Rabbi, it says in Perkei Avot, Im la'achshav Masai, if not now, then when? And one often approaches the beginning of Elul with some laziness towards growth. So the question is, how can we address these challenges and hold us, what's holding us back from becoming better people and growing?
That's an amazing question, Rabbi Meir. Thank you. It's also a loaded question. So
yeah, I'm sorry about that.
You said the interview is about 4 hours or so? Is that 30 minutes? That's it? Oh my goodness. All right, we're going to try to address this quickly. But, I think that the first thing that we have to think about is really, what is it that holds us back? I can't speak for you, I can't speak for everybody out there, but I know that for myself personally, they told me this is a confessional session, so I'm just gonna say it like it is. But when it comes like Elul and we hear it's Rosh Chodesh, my honest thoughts are like, oh boy, not that again. Elul, I gotta grow, I gotta change, it's not so easy. I'm not as excited for Elul as I am for Purim. It's not the same feeling. So the question is why? Why don't we feel excited? Why aren't we motivated? And I think there's really three reasons. The first one is follows. I want to share a story with you that happened about 15 years ago. I was on a flight to Eretz Yisrael with a few friends of mine, and it turned out that on the flight, it just so happened that Rav Shmuel Berenbaum, the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir Yeshiva Zatzal, was on that flight. And we were asked to join a minyan with him for Shachris on the back of the plane. It was really a big zechus. And after the minyan, I was walking him back to his seat, and all of a sudden, the pilot announces over the loudspeaker. He says that there's a lot of turbulence going on in the plane. Everybody has to sit down. Now, Rav Shmuel, he didn't hear the announcement. He was older at the time, he didn't hear it. So he just kind of kept on talking to me. And I heard the announcement, I felt kind of awkward, like what do we do now? Do I end the conversation or not? But we kept on talking. So finally, one of the Israeli flight attendants, he comes over and he says, Rabbi, you have to sit down now. The plane is shaking, you have to sit down. And Rav Shmuel looked at him, and I still remember this like it was yesterday. He was holding his talis bag, and he said to him, tefillin, tefillin. And the man said, huh? What are you talking about? And Rav Shmuel again, with his big smile, he said, tefillin, tefillin. He said, I don't know. And Rav Shmuel said, why don't you take my tefillin and put them on? Why don't you do a mitzvah today? And the man looked at Rav Shmuel, he said, no. He said, Rabbi, no. He said, Rabbi, I haven't put on tefillin since my bar mitzvah. And since that time, he said, I've done so many sins, and I've done so many crimes, Hashem doesn't want my tefillin anyway. And Rav Shmuel put on that smile, as people who knew him know, that beautiful smile, and he said to him, okay, no problem. He said, but I'm telling you, the tefillin will help. But the man didn't want to, and Rav Shmuel, smiled at him, wished him a good day, went back to his seat. After he left, the flight attendant looked at me, he said, he must be some very special rabbi, isn't he? And I explained to him who he is, and and that was how the story ended. And I was thinking about it, like this individual, he feels that he's done so many sins, so many crimes. I'm such a bad Jew, and therefore Hashem doesn't love me. Hashem isn't interested in my prayers. And that's really one of the things that kind of hits us, whether it be consciously or whether it be subconsciously, that we kind of feel the same way sometimes. Like, I've done so many sins, so many averos. Like, it's not going to help. What? I'm going to grow, I'm going to change. Forget about it. I think that's one of the things that really gets us, that feeling just like the flight attendant. The second thing is that, for all of us listening, this Elul, this is not our first rodeo. We've been down this road. Some people are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. I've done this every year. I tried to make my changes, and guess what? I failed. Every year I tried. I said, Rabbi, I'm going to learn more Torah. I'm going to daven better. And guess what? I didn't do it. So I failed. I feel like a failure. So why should I do it again? And number 3, I think, could be even the most prevalent, is that we feel like, why should I do this? Like, I have my life I want to live. I have my job. I have my work. I don't want to be bothered by growing. I just want to do my thing. Leave me alone with all the speeches and the inspiration and the growing. It's too hard. I just don't want to. Just leave me alone. So those are really the 3 points. And I think that to address it, we really need to think and to understand the reality. As far as the flight attendant, what we should tell him and what we should really tell ourselves when we think, I'm so low, I've done so many sins, I'm so terrible, is that, we just experienced Tisha B'Av. And that was really when the Jewish people sank to the lowest of levels, to the extent that the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, had to be destroyed. Yet at the time that the Beis HaMikdash was about to be destroyed, what does Hashem tell Yirmiyah, tell Jeremiah to tell the people? What are his words? You would think his words would be, you're going to give it to them. You people messed up so bad, but what are his words? His words tell them, Zacharti la chesed ne'urayach. I remember the chesed way back when, Ahavas k'lu l'sayach, that love, that bridal love, like a bride to a groom, that we felt, me and you, Hashem and Klal Yisrael, way back when. Lechtech achrei b'midbar, when you followed after me in the desert. And all I want is to have that relationship. Hashem is telling us, no matter how far we sink, no matter how low we go, Hashem wants us to come back always. And, if that was true in the time periods when, of the Beis HaMikdash, when it was going to be destroyed, I think certainly it's true by us as well, And, as far as point number 2, like, I've failed so many times, we got to get ourselves into the right mind frame. We were talking before, Rabbi, about, how I was doing Kiruv in Stony Brook University. I was the campus rabbi over there in Long Island. And I remember there's a lot of stories that happened during those years, but there's one that really stuck out. And there was a fellow by the name of Brandon who I was learning with. We were learning Mesilat Yesharim together for 2 years, and it was amazing. It's really a whole story how we ended up learning together in the first place, but okay, that's for a different interview. But we were learning, and one day he came in, And he says to me the following: we often would learn over lunch together in the kosher cafeteria, eat our lunch and have our Seder studying together. And one day he comes in, he says, Rabbi, I made a decision that today I want to do everything right as far as this meal goes. Whatever the Jewish laws are, as far as the meal, I don't know what they are, but you tell me what they are, and I want to do it right for this meal. I've never done it before, and I don't know if I'm going to do it after, but I want to do it right. I said, Brandon, that's awesome. That's amazing. So let's start. First, we're going to start with the kippah. Okay, so we put on the kippah, and then I said we do netilat yadayim, we wash our hands. We went over to the sink, got the washing cup. He made the bracha. Then we got back to the seat. He was about to eat. I said, no, wait. We say the hamotzi, the bracha. And then finally, after the meal, after it was over, we said that we do Birkat HaMazon, we bench, and we thank God. I took out one of the NCSY benches that we have over there, and he said as much as he can. And it was amazing. And he left feeling great about himself, and I also left feeling so good. And I went home, I remember I told my wife, I said, guess what? I said, Brandon did all the halachos for having a meal today. And she said, whoa, that's amazing. I told my friends, they said, wow, that's an incredible accomplishment. And, and it is an amazing accomplishment. And I stopped to think about it. I was thinking, listen, Brandon didn't do it before, and he never did it after, or it could be he did, but I don't know of it. And but yet we celebrate that accomplishment like it's so huge. And I stopped to think, I said, you know why we celebrate it like it's so huge? Because it is so huge. And why is it that we can't celebrate that same accomplishment when it comes to myself? When it comes to my own accomplishments? We say, I made a commitment, I'm going to learn a lot of Torah this year. But I failed. I'm going to learn the whole Masechet this year, the whole tractate of the Gemara, and I didn't do it. Okay. Yeah, but how much did you do? You did 10 blot? You did 10 pages? That's amazing. But I didn't do the other 60, 70, 80. Okay. But you did 10. That's awesome. That's incredible. You said you made a commitment. I'm going to daven with Kavana this year. I'm going to daven the first blessing in the Shmoneh Esrei with Kavana. And I only did it for a week, and then I fell out of it. Okay. But do you know what you accomplished when you did it for that week? Your tefillah was so elevated. It was amazing. You improved in your tefillah. You improved in your emunah. Your relationship with Hashem is so much different because of that 1 week. So I think that we have to reframe this whole idea of taking things on and what I, failed in, that really we grew a tremendous amount. A cup is half full, half empty. We got to focus in on that. And realize our amazing accomplishments. And when we do that, we're going to, take that inspiration and just push ourselves forward. And, as far as point number 3, I just don't want to. It's too hard. Well, I think we have to ask ourselves, do you want to be happy? Do you want happiness in life? Tal Ben Shachar, the positive psychologist who wrote the book Happier, as well as many others, is a Harvard psychologist. He writes at the beginning of the book Happier. He says that he started out in Harvard University, and they asked him to give a small course on the topic of happiness. He said 8 students signed up, 2 dropped out in the middle of the semester. He was left with 6 students. Okay. But he gave the course, giving people tools to grow in their happiness. And he said the next semester, there were over 300 students that signed up. Wow. But then the next semester, there were over 800 students that signed up. And Tal said that it became the largest course in the entire Harvard University. Wow. And he asks the question, he says, well, these are the most brilliant minds in America. The people who are set up for success. Why is everybody searching for happiness? And the answer is really what the Maggid Mishnah tells us. He says that really simcha, you want to know where simcha comes from? Real true happiness. He says real true happiness comes from a person recognizing what it is that they need to accomplish and doing it. And when a person is really in that state where, I'm accomplishing, I'm growing, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, that's when they feel real happiness, Amazing. So yeah. So when we reframe it, it's a whole different picture. And then hey, I want to grow. sign me up for this, for this Elul thing,
Rabbi Moskowitz, amazing Chazaq inspiration. But as we all know, kol atchalot kashot, all beginnings are difficult. So Rabbi, how should we view these initial roadblocks on the journey to becoming our true selves, to becoming happier people, to become better people? It's going to be difficult in the beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's an amazing point. And that's usually what hits us also, that this is really challenging, this is hard. And I think that, to answer that, we have to really take a step back and understand what does Hashem want from us during this time period of Elul through Yom Kippur, etc. And I saw there's an incredible sefer out there that recently was published into English. It's called the Sichos, the Talks of Rav Shlomo Hoffman. And Rav Shlomo Hoffman was a student in the Hebron Yeshiva for many years. And he said like this, he said a very interesting little anecdote, that one day he was walking around Yeshiva when he was a student many years ago. It was during the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And he was very sad. He was very down, had this frown on his face. And the Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Chazkel Sarna, stopped him in the hallway. He said, "Why are you so sad?" He said, "Well, because it's the Aseret Yemei Tshuva." And he said, "Huh? So why does that mean you should be sad? Why shouldn't you be happy?" He said, "Well, because I'm supposed to do tshuva. And according to the Rambam, according to Maimonides, that means very high levels of changing myself and turning everything around, taking on a new leaf. I'm very sad because it's very hard." And Rabbi Yecheskel Sarna smiled and he looked at him. He said, "In this regard, we don't paskin like the Rambam." He says, we paskin like we determine the halacha like Rabbeinu Yono, who says the following. He says, all we need to do in order for Hashem to be happy with us come Yom Kippur is for us to be Mesiyatze Val Derech Tov, to get onto the right path. He gives a mashal, and this mashal, the story goes back to the times of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. And if I may, I'm going to try to Americanize the mashal a little bit, because he's talking about Israeli towns, etc. But imagine, there's a fellow who moves over to America from Israel, and he doesn't really know the country that well, but he settles over in Baltimore. And he knows he has a close friend of his who lives in New York, and he wants to go visit. So he has a day off, and he asks somebody, "How do I get there?" So they say, "Listen, you got to get to the highway and take Interstate 95 straight to New York. Just take it straight there, you're good to go." All right. He gets on the highway, he starts driving. He sees the signs for Interstate 95, and he gets on, he's driving. He's assuming it's going to take about 3.5 hours, and 3.5 hours later, he's looking, and he sees signs for, "Welcome to North Carolina." It's like, North Carolina, I don't know, I'm assuming that that's somewhere near New York. So I'm just going to keep on driving. So he keeps on driving, and eventually South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. But I'm assuming they told me go this way. So I'm assuming this is the route to New York. Till eventually he gets all the way down to Miami Beach. and he gets out of the car, he's stopped by the beach, he's on Collins Avenue, can't drive any further. And he gets out, and he says, "Yes, somebody there, is New York somewhere around here?" And they look at him like he's crazy. "New York? You're 19 hours away from New York. What's wrong with you?" He says, "Well, I was in Baltimore. I want to get to New York. What happened?" The fellow says, "Oh, you went the wrong direction on the 95. You went north. You should have gone south. What you have to do is get to the highway and get back. Get back on the right road. It's going to be a long drive. It's going to be about 19 hours, but eventually you're going to get there." And Shlomo Hoffman stopped and he said, "You know what? If you stop right there, in the film, right there in the movie, and ask the following question: at what point in this trip was he closer to his destination?" And many of us would say when he left Baltimore, right? He was a much closer. He was only 3.5 hours away. He says, no, you're making a big mistake. He said when he left Baltimore, he was the furthest from his destination. You know why? Because he was heading in the wrong direction. He was headed on a trajectory to never get there. But he says now, even though he's 19 hours away, now he's on the path to head in the right direction. And he says that that's what we need to do. That moment that you turn around on the highway, that moment that you just spin that car around, and now I'm headed in the right direction, that's what Hashem wants from us. Comes Yom Kippur. And the Gemara says, that Yom Kippur is mechaper lashavim. Yom Kippur atones for those who are doing teshuvah. And Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says it doesn't say lashavu, for those who did teshuvah. It says lashavim, for those who are doing teshuvah, those who are in the process, just getting on the right road. That's all we have to do.
Amazing.
Yeah,
what inspiration, Rabbi Moskowitz. Gewaldig. I love it. We're all doing teshuvah. We're all getting inspired. So, Rabbi, all too often when we are inspired, we bite off more than what we could chew. But we know that it says in the Gemara, "Fasta meruba, lo tefasta," that you grab too much, you won't grab anything. So, what small steps, Rabbi, can we take to make this a meaningful Elul?
Amazing. Thank you. And I like that word, small steps. We're going to be getting more into that, as we go. Let's not get overwhelmed. Don't get scared.
Very well with your answer.
Exactly. Don't get scared. The first thing is, the Mesilat Yesharim from Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, he tells us that we have to do something called Mikach Cheshbon HaNefesh. We have to really stop and internalize and think. He says we have to think about the big picture of what my goals are for life, what Hashem wants from me overall. And he says the second step is we have to think about how do my actions that I'm doing right now, or that I'm not doing, or that I could be doing, whatever, how do those line up with the big picture? And I was thinking about this, and I gave a class down in South Florida a few years ago on around this time period, and it was called Steps Towards Real Change. And one of the things that I put out there, and we'll see if it's up there on the screen, but I put together this idea of points to ponder. And something to think about is that our avodas Hashem, our service of God, really could be broken up into different parts. We have our tefillah, which is definitely a big part. We have our Torah learning. We also have our relationship with our spouse and with our children. That's a big part of our avodas Hashem. We have our relationships at work and how we deal with life's challenges as they come up in work. We also have the big things that hit us. In our life, sometimes somebody gets sick, etc. How do we address it? How do we react towards that? And I said, and I put down on this paper, that really we have to stop and think about these little categories. Take 10 minutes out of your day and stop and think. For example, when it comes to my home, let's ask ourselves, can my relationship with my spouse, my children, my family be even better than it already is? And if so, in what way? What can I do to make that happen? We stop and we think about our tefillah and our brachos. Do I understand the meaning of the prayers that I'm saying? Is my tefillah, my daily brachos, causing me to appreciate that Hashem is providing for me? Am I thanking Hashem enough for my amazing life? Let's ask ourselves these questions. My tougher life situations. Do I feel that Hashem is giving me these challenges for my good, for my growth? We know that's the truth. Do I feel that my emunah is being tested in these moments? Are any of my midos being triggered during these situations? Is there anything I can do to increase my trust in Hashem throughout these difficult circumstances? Ask ourselves these questions. These areas in life, my career, my tefillah, my learning, my family, is there any area there that I feel that I could grow, that I could get even better at?
Rabbi Moskowitz, love the chizuk, love the inspiration. The words are coming out of the Rabbi's heart and into all of ours as well. Rabbi, I really, really enjoyed all the chizuk, but we could ask you for one last final message for our broad audience, the last, grand slam.
Well, the Grand Slam, thank you very much, Rabbi. Really, we're going to do one step before the Grand Slam,
sure.
And that is, the step before the Grand Slam is that after we think about the areas we want to improve, we got to pick something really, really small. Pick something really small, amazing. That's what we were talking about before, the small steps. Rav Volbe said a really cool story. He said that he was asked to give chizuk to some Israeli soldiers a number of years back who were fighting on the front lines in Egypt, and he was being flown on the plane into Egypt. And as soon as they crossed the border into Egypt, he said that the plane took a nosedive, and it was going really fast, down to Mother Earth. And he was very scared, and he asked the pilot what's going on, and the pilot said to me, he said, when we go into enemy territory, they could detect us on the radars. So he said, we have to fly really low. And if we fly really low to the ground, then the radars can't detect us. And Rav Volbe said, isn't that an amazing mashal? Isn't that an amazing life lesson for us? Especially when it comes to Elul. The Yetzer Hara tries to get us. And he knows that when we take on these big things, and this year, I'm going to finish all of Shas. Or this year, I am never going to get angry at anyone. We try these big things. That's when the Yetzer Hara says, oh, I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to get you. Because then all of a sudden, the moment after Yom Kippur, he's all of a sudden getting so mad because he didn't get the first piece of cake, to break the fast. So we take on these big things, the Yetzer Hara gets us. But Rav Obi says that if we are able to fly real low and take on something real small and simple in the area that we want to grow in, then he says that then the Yetzer Hara has a much harder time at getting us. We could fly under the radar. And so that's why we have to take on some really small thing, If a person wants to improve their relationships, especially their relationship with their spouse, their relationship with their children, can we commit ourselves to give one compliment a day? One compliment a day to my spouse? Can I do that? That would be amazing. That one thing, and that's going to help us improve overall in all of our relationships. Can I say one bracha a day? One shehakol nihiyeh bidvaro with kavana. We do that. That should be kind of easy. If we could do that, then we're going to be growing in our brachos and all the brachos and our emunah, our connection with Hashem. So it's really amazing. And I want to leave off, Rabbi, that if we want, we want some inspiration, we want some role models, people to look at, people that we say, hey, that person is growing, that person is doing the right thing, that person is accomplishing. I want to look at them as a role model, whether it be a family member, a friend, a rabbi, etc. And I want to grow. I also want to grow. I want to be just like them. And I was really thinking that when I walk in here to the office, and just getting to see everybody in person and seeing all the work that's going on here on behalf of Klal Yisrael here at the Chazaq office, I think really this is the place that everybody should come in to get their inspiration. I don't want to flood the office here, Rabbi Meir. Everyone's going to be coming in, come Elul, but come here to really get the inspiration. You see all the incredible work that Chazaq is doing, the work for the kids, trying to get the kids out of public schools and into yeshivas. A few days ago, Rabbi and I were talking, and I thought the conversation was about this interview, which is how it started. But then Rabbi was saying, Rabbi, what could we do about in South Florida to get the public school kids? What could we do to get them into yeshivas? I said, these guys are amazing. They're thinking all over the place, and the kids into the yeshivas and the work for the teens, and all of the incredible shiurim that all of us have benefited from, the amazing speakers and everything all around the world. And it's just really awesome, and I'm in awe when I see and I hear about and I participate in all of the incredible work that you do, and it really inspires me to grow, to want to become better, to want to accomplish more. Seeing your tireless efforts just on behalf of Klal Yisrael is really amazing.
Wow, thank you very, very much, Rabbi Moskowitz, for the chizuk, for the inspiration. And Rabbi Moskowitz is definitely a role model as well, and the great work that you do in South Florida, right?
South Florida, yeah.
Yeshivas, help me out, Torah's Chaim Emes, did I say?
Torah's Emes.
But the 1,300 students, Kanayna Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem. And it was a pleasure to have you on the program. What inspiration, what chizuk you gave all of us. You should continue strong, and we remind to all of our audience to log in every single Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Tuesday's Timely Torah Talks with amazing guest speakers. Once again, Rabbi Moskowitz, Chazaq Baruch Yashar Koach.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi Meir.